Okay, now let's understand these through program. Let me open the program. Yeah, so here, this is my program. Here you can see the class check IV containing several instance variables of different data types. Okay, and it has a method get in it. See, all these are instance variables. The variables which are declared in a class before any method are called instance variables. So you can see different type of variables here: int, long, float, string, boolean, double, even char is there. Fine. So these are all instance variable. Then there is a get method, just accepting a and b through parameter. Calc method, finding the sum of a, b. And there is the dis method, which is displaying all the instance variables declared in the beginning. So here you just concentrate mainly on the declared instance variable and the disp method. Okay. Now here I have also written a main method where we create object and call all the above methods. But before here, the main attention you need to give is to the instance variable and to the disp method. Okay. Now let me show you the execution of this. Now when I close it, I will create an object. Now when I right click, okay, first compile it. It got compiled. Now when you right click, you see here new check IV with a parenthesis. Now here, this part is, okay, just a minute. Yeah, when you right click this, you see new and check IV. New is for allocating memory and check IV with parenthesis is nothing but the default constructor. So this default constructor is provided by the compiler to initialize all the instance variable at object creation. So when you click this, it is asking you to give the name of object. You can give obj or you can keep the same name. Okay, now the object is created. Now when you right click, you can see all the methods of the class. Now when I click on this, it will show me the values. Now who has assigned these values? We haven't assigned any values in our program, right? We are just creating object and calling the disp method. So these values are assigned by the default constructors. You can check that integer got a value 0, long is also an integer, and double, the floating point values are given 0.0, string null, boolean false, right? So these are the values which are assigned to the instance variable through the default constructor, which is provided by the Java compiler by default. Okay, so this is the default constructor's job of initializing all the instance variables at object creation. Okay, now we can even write the constructors in our program. Now, for example, I have already written it. I will just copy paste this so that you can understand. Yeah, control, 1 second. And I will place it here in the beginning. You can write it anywhere, it doesn't matter. But yeah, now you can see I have written a constructor in the program. The first one is the default constructor. This is a default constructor. See, the access is public. There is no return type, and the name of constructor is same as the class name. Right? The class name is check IV. Okay, it's not visible here, but it's written as check IV. So, and the default constructor does not accept any parameters. So this is your default constructor, and I'm assigning A and B as 10 and 80. I'm not assigning all the instance variable, but only A and B in my default constructor. Okay. And similarly, there is a parameterized constructor accepting two integers for assigning to the instance variable A and B. Okay. I'm only assigning A and B. That's all. So this is your default constructor. This is your parameterized constructor. Okay. Now, when we write a constructor in our program, then the default constructor which was working initially will not work, but these constructors will take up the assignment work. Okay, so now let's see, be very focused. Yes, so I compile it first as I have done some changes. This is my default constructor, this is my parameterized constructor. Now when I right click this, I can see here both the constructors, the default constructor and the parameterized constructor. So I can create an object using any one of these constructors. So first, let's see, new check IV. So I'm calling the default constructor. Okay. Now, when I right click and call the disp method, what happens? See, what happened here? The default constructor was invoked and A and B were initialized by 10 and 80, which was written in the default constructor. And the remaining variables were assigned by the default constructor provided by compiler to the default values based on their data type. Are you getting it? Right? So this is how you can call a default constructor and a parameterized constructor. Now I will show you how to create an object using parameterized constructor. Now here I want to create an object using parameterized constructor, the first one, which accepts parameters. So when I click it, it will ask me to enter the value of A1 and B1. Let me give it 11 and 22. Okay. And now when I right click and call this, my AB got initialized through the actual values I have sent while invoking parameterized constructor. In the parameterized constructor, A1, B1 will receive 11 and 22, the actual parameters passed while invoking the constructor. And A and B will get initialized through this A1, B1, which was 11 and 22. Okay, so we can initialize the variables through constructors. So if we do not write any constructor, the default constructor provided by Java will take care of initializing all the instance variables declared. But when we write a constructor in our program, then these constructors will take care of initializing the instance variables. Fine. So we can write the default constructor and parameterized constructor in our program. Okay. So this is your constructor concept. Hope it is clear. So you only need to remember a few things here. Like, 1 second, we'll just revise it once again. See, the class name is check IV. Okay. And there are two constructors here. The default constructor accepting no parameter, parameterized constructor accepting parameters. Okay, and what is the job of constructor? To initialize instance variables. Okay, the basic purpose of constructor is to initialize instance variables. So whenever we write a constructor in a program, these will be activated for the purpose of assigning instance variables with the values at object creation. Okay, now you can compare a function with the constructor. Now, since you understood constructor, you can compare the constructor and a method. When you compare this, you can see both will have access. Okay. In case of function, return type is necessary. You have to write the return type. If there is no return statement, it has to be void or it has to be any other valid data type, but it cannot be left empty. But in case of constructor, we do not have any kind of return type. And then the function name has to be any valid identifier, whereas the constructor name has to be same as the class name. Okay, and then there are two type of constructors, default and parameterized. Okay, so these are the basic differences between a constructor and a method. So I think with this, the concept of constructor is clear. And one more thing I would like to tell you here is, okay, let me show you another class. Yeah, this is your demo class here. Here I'm trying to call the method of check IV in demo program. This is a different program. I will just show you how we can call methods of one class into another. Now, if I want to call methods of check IV in demo program, I have to first create object of the class check IV. Okay. In class demo program, I want to call methods of check IV. The methods of check IV. This is a different class. I'm just showing you how to call methods of one class into another. Right. So first, we have to create object of the class whose methods you want to call, and then through that object and dot operator you can call the methods. So whenever you're calling methods of one class into another, first you have to create object of the class necessarily, and then through that object and dot operator you can call all the methods of that particular class. Okay, so let's check out on this. Yeah, so let me compile this. No syntax error. 1 second. It has to show void check. Okay, here sum is not there. Only get and calc method is displayed. So, okay. So here also I will remove the sum method. Okay, get check ID. Fine. Okay, compile. Right click, create an object. Okay, right click and call the main function where we created the object. Can you see? I have called methods of check IV in demo program through object creation. Okay, now if I make the constructor here private, if I make it private, okay, here it will still work because, you know, in a class you can access all the methods, even if it is private or protected or public, right? Private is the most restrictive access specifier, but within a class you can access all type of members irrespective of its access. But when I will call, when I try to create object of demo class and call the method main, will it call the main method now? See, it has given me the error. It is not able to call the method because check IV is declared, the default constructor in check IV is declared as private. So it is not allowing me to create an object of that class, and thereby I cannot call any method of check IV. Are you getting it? So I have to make sure that my constructors are declared with access public only, because otherwise there is no purpose. If I make it public, actually the constructor's access must be public only. Then only we can create objects in other classes and call the methods from one class into another. If you make it private, then the whole purpose of object-oriented programming goes in vain. Fine. So let's check it once again. Now, if I right click and create an object, okay. And when I right click, I call the main and it gives me the output without any problem. Whereas when I made the constructor private, it was not allowing me to create its object. Therefore, I was not able to call the methods. Okay, so let's go back to the main screen. Yeah, so now if you see all this, I think it will be understood well. Yeah, so first we saw the definition of a constructor, the characteristics of a constructor, the two type of constructors I have shown you in the BlueJ, and then the differences between constructor and functions. You can just see the differences. The same thing what we discussed there. A constructor name is same as the class name, whereas a function must be any valid identifier. The constructor has no return type, whereas function must have a return type. The access should always be public, whereas a function can have any other access also. And the last thing is, the task of constructor is to initialize instance variables at object creation, whereas a function is generally returned for performing a particular task. Okay, so hope all the concepts discussed today are clear. Just go through all this and then 1 second. Yeah, so with this we come to the end of today's session. We will continue with this chapter. We will be discussing constructor overloading and the programs where default and parameterized constructors will be asked. Okay. Thank you, children.